Everybody would love to have a flexible legs, hips, lower body in general, but not a lot of people think about the glutes flexibility. The glutes are huge muscles, huge and strong muscles that surround the hip area. And if you want to have flexible legs, hips, lower body in general, you should care about your glutes flexibility. In this video, I'm going to show you the best exercises you do want to use to work on your glutes flexibility with minimal equipment and high results. Let's go. Alright guys, so the first exercise we do want to do is down on the floor. Really simple, but really effective. A lot of people know it, probably, but not all of them do it right. And I do want to point out the major details you do want to respect if you want to correctly perform this exercise, alright? Now, you do want to start sitting on the floor like this. One leg straight in front of you. Now, the stretch is created by doing this. You do want to bring one knee next to your straight leg with the foot next to your straight leg's knee. Now, from here, you want to press this hip down like this, all right? And you do want to pull your knee toward your opposite armpit, this way. Now, as you do this, the major detail is this. You don't want to curve your back, all right? So if you pull and curve your back, you're going to lose entirely the stretch. So you do want to do the reverse. You do want to go into anterior pelvic tilt as much as you can. So before you start this kind of movement here, before you start pulling your knee toward your armpit, you do want to move your hips in anterior tilt. Straighten your back as much as you can. Open your chest out. And think about pushing your head toward the ceiling. This is going to create the correct activation, all right? So head up, straight back, and then I pull. As I pull, I don't want to move this hip from the floor, all right? So this hip remains well pressed against the floor at all times. And I can remain here 6 to 10 breaths, and I can change the variation. When this stretch feels comfortable, I can do something like this. I want to bend my straight leg here, like this. Now the hip may come off the floor. This is good, but you do want to keep this foot against the floor, all right? Now with the hip away from the floor, this is good. You want to do exactly the same thing. So you do want to move your hips into anterior tilt, straighten your back, push your head up. And from here, pull the knee and move the hip down. Wow. Now I can feel the stretch, all right? So it's all about pushing this hip toward the floor, keeping my back as straight as possible, and pulling the knee toward the armpit. Wow, this is so strong. Oh yeah, yep, like that, all right? Again, 6 to 10 breaths. If I want to relax further into the stretch, I can use a PNF contraction, which means as I'm in this position, I can press this knee toward my arm for 10 seconds, so as if I wanted to do something like this, all right? So press, 10 seconds, then I stop, inhale, stop the contraction, exhale, relax, get deeper into the stretch. What does getting deeper into the stretch mean here? I want to press this hip toward the floor more and anterior pelvic tilt more. So straighten through the back, push my head up, all right? This is the ticket. This is what creates the stretch. Of course, I can repeat on both sides. If I have a stiffer side, I do want to perform one set more on that side, all right? And this is the first exercise you do want to use to stretch your glutes like crazy. Now, let's see the second one. Second exercise for your glutes flexibility. This one is also for your piriformis muscle, which is a small muscles you got deep inside your glutes area. And it's a really important muscles you want to stretch if you want to have flexible hips. We got two variations here, all right? So one with your back against the floor, one with your back against the wall. I'm gonna show you both. Start with the easiest one, all right? So what you do want to do to stretch your glutes is this. You want to lie down with your back on the floor. One leg against the wall, one foot on top of the other knee. Now, to create the stretch, you got two main strategies, all right? You want to bend this leg, bring your knee toward your chest. Can you see what happens? So the knee goes towards the chest. Second one, I want to push this knee toward the wall. All right, so I do want to create something which is called external rotation of the hip. The more I do first or the second maneuver, the more stretch I create. All right, I can do this, I can bend the leg more, or I can push the knee more, or I can do both. All right, either way, I'm gonna stretch more my glutes of this leg here. All right, you can remain here 6 to 10 breaths. After 6 to 10 breaths, you can apply a PNF contraction, which means I'm gonna push this foot against the wall, that way, against the knee. I hold that contraction for 10 seconds, and then I stop, inhale, exhale. On the exhale, I push this knee more. I can bring this knee more toward my chest. As I do this, I never want to lift my hips off the floor, all right? So I do want to constantly keep my hips in contact with the floor, all right? And my spine neutral. Now, there will be a point where you can't press the knee toward your chest anymore because you got a lot of space between your glutes and the wall, and you can't bend your leg anymore, all right? The leg which is on the wall. What you do want to do from there is simple. You do want to slide toward the wall a little, so you do want to put your hips closer to the wall, and you do want to do the exact same thing. Only this time, the stretch is gonna be a little more intense because this knee will come further toward your chest, all right? But remember, there's no point in bringing your knee toward your chest if this knee comes toward your chest as well. Can you see? If I do something like this, I'm gonna entirely lose the stretch, all right? So there are a couple of things that you do want to do at the same time. The first one, you do want to bend your leg. The second one, you do want to push this knee toward the wall. When your shin bone is perpendicular to the wall, this means that you are doing the exercise correctly, perpendicular or almost perpendicular, all right? And this is how you want to perform the first variation. Always remember, hips against the floor. Now, we got a second variation, which is almost completely identical, but it's done in a slightly different way. Now, the concept is the same though. The only thing that changes is that now you got your back against the wall. This is gonna make the exercise a little more intense because you can just test it out. Now, same position, straight leg, bent leg, foot on top of the knee. From here, you do want to bend the leg and bring your knee toward your chest, like that. Now, if you're stiff, you're not gonna be able to do this. It's just too hard. And from here, it's really inconvenient, let's say inconvenient, to do something like this because the position is so uncomfortable, all right? At this point, it's much better to perform the variation with your back on the floor, all right? So this one is slightly harder. You can do this when your glutes are flexible enough to make you do this, all right? Now, from here, as you can see, I got this knee, which is coming toward my chest, and I do want to press the knee away from my chest. I do want to press the knee toward the floor, all right? The more I do that, the more external rotation I create, the more stretch I create. So again, a couple of things create the stretch. This knee that comes toward my chest, this knee that goes toward the floor. These two things create the stretch. I want to maintain my hips in anterior tilt and my body, my trunk as straight as possible, my spine, my lower back as straight as possible. I want to create the stretch. Now, it's exactly the same. So 6 to 10 breaths. After 6 to 10 breaths, I can push with this foot against the knee toward the floor. For 10 seconds, I hold, then I stop, inhale, exhale. To create more stretch, I can either bend the leg more or push the knee more toward the floor. One of the two or both at the same time. This is how I want to create the stretch in the second variation, all right? So 2 variations. The movement is identical. You want to choose yours to find your spot, all right? And to feel a very good sensation on your glutes, of stretch on your glutes, and on your piriformis, which is a muscle. You're gonna feel it like right over here, all right? It is a little external to the glutes area, and you're gonna feel the stretch also in that particular area of your hip. This is the second exercise you do want to do to increase your glutes flexibility. Now, let's say the third one. Third exercise you do want to use for your glutes flexibility. This is really simple, right? You just need support like a chair or a bench, something like that. What you do want to do is this. You do want to start by putting one foot at the edge of the support and the knee on the other edge, all right? The more you bend the front knee, the easier the exercise gets, all right? So the more you straighten it, vice versa, the harder, all right? Now, you do want to find your spot here. The other leg can stay in 2 main positions. The first one is relaxed, all right? When you start, you just want to relax that. The better you get, the more you can straighten your back leg and push your back heel back as much as you can. The most important thing here is this. To create the stretch, you do want to lean towards your front leg with this hip, which means the more you lean this way, away from the front leg, the less you're gonna feel the stretch. Vice versa, the more you lean into the stretch this way, toward your front leg with the opposite hip, the more you're gonna feel the stretch. From this position here, remember, you do want to keep an arched back. You don't wanna curve your back. The moment you curve your back, you're gonna lose almost every glute stretch. So arch your back. From here, 2 main variations. Dynamic, go down, push your head in front of you, come back up, all right? As soon as you feel the stretch, pause there for a couple of seconds, come back up. Go down, pause for a couple of seconds, come back up. You can repeat for 6 to 10 reps. On the last one, you want to remain in the stretch for longer. So you do want to move the back leg back, push the opposite hip down, anterior tilt, push your head in front of you. Ooh, and stretch it there. You can remain here 6 to 10 breaths. After 6 to 10 breaths, you can apply a PNF contraction, which means you're gonna push this foot toward the floor for 10 seconds, gentle contraction. After 10 seconds, you stop it, inhale. On the exhale, you want to get deeper into the stretch by leaning more, flexing your body forward more. Now, a really important thing, everything is touching the supports. The front glute, the front knee, the front foot. These 3 points are touching the support, the bench or the chair at all times to create the correct amount of stretch, all right? So, simple, but not really that much. You're gonna feel the stretch a lot, like crazy. So this is the third exercise you do want to use for your glutes flexibility. Now, we do want to see the last one, which you probably know. This is called the pigeon pose, but I do want to show you how to correctly do it. Fourth and last exercise we do want to see for the glutes flexibility. Now, we need some yoga blocks. This exercise here is really famous. It's called the pigeon pose. I really don't know why this is called like that in yoga or similar disciplines, but I think that this is because like in the later stages it kind of looks similar to a pigeon, but not today. This one is not gonna look like a pigeon, so it doesn't make any sense today to call it like a pigeon pose, but let's call it that way, because this way we'll know what we're talking about, all right? This is the pigeon pose. It's called like that. Now, you just need some yoga blocks, couple of yoga blocks here, and you want to put the yoga blocks under your front glutes and your front knee, like this. All right, so the starting setup is this. All right, so you got your front knee on top of the yoga blocks, your front glute on top of the yoga blocks, and you gotta stay well pressed there. Second thing, you can keep your front knee bent at 90 degrees. This is the harder variation. If you feel like this is too hard for you, you can bend your front knee a little, like that, all right? Now, back leg, last detail. You can keep your back leg slightly turned out with your knee on the floor facing out, like that, and bent. When you're stiff, you can do this. As you get better and better, what you do want to do instead is this. You do want to lean toward your back hip and gently push your back hip down, all right? The better you get, the more you want to do this, because this kind of hip movement is what creates the stretch. Now, you got two main variations here. First one, dynamic. From here, you do want to start with your hands behind your head, drive your chest toward your front knee, come back up. Drive your chest over your front knee. 1, 2, come back up. All right? Now, you can adjust the intensity of this exercise in many different ways. You can bend your leg a little, all right? This is going to make the exercise a little easier, all right? And you can also bend your back leg, all right? If you bend your back leg, this is going to make the exercise a little easier. All right, because you won't push this hip over the floor, which is what creates the stretch. After 6 to 10 dynamic reps, you can pause in the stretch, which means from here, the technique is really important here. You want to straighten your back leg as much as possible. Straighten your spine, which means you do want to move your hips into anterior tilt. Again, you don't want to curve your back, as in all the glute stretches we've been seeing so far. And you want to push your head up. From here, one hand on top of the front knee, one hand on top of the front foot, and you drive the center of your chest toward the center of your knee, like that. Keep your back straight, move your head in front of you, and stop wherever you feel the stretch. As you do this, your front knee, your front glute have to stay in contact with the yoga blocks. You can stay here 6 to 10 breaths. After 6 to 10 breaths, you can push your front foot toward the floor for 10 seconds. You hold that contraction, then you stop, inhale, exhale, and on the exhale, you can get deeper into the stretch. And this creates a huge sensation of stretch. To make the exercise harder, of course, the progression is so simple. You just have to move the blocks down. This creates more pressure on your hips because you get closer to the floor. So you have to really push this hip toward the floor more in order to be able to stay here, all right? And the progression goes exactly like before. So dynamic repetitions, 6 to 10 reps, all right? And on the last one, the technique changes a bit, but you do want to drive the center of your sternum toward your front knee and stay there. Pause in the stretch. 6 to 10 breaths, PNF, 6 to 10 breaths again. When you do want to intensify the stretch, you just straighten through the back more and get deeper into the stretch. This is so intense, this is so intense. And this is the last one I do want to show you, one of the best ones here. All these exercises here have one thing in common. They all have to be done with the correct technique. Because from start to finish, each and every exercise is simple but difficult if done with the correct technique. A lot of people claim not to feel the stretch during these stretches here. And this is not because they are super flexible. It may be because they are not using the correct technique, all right? Which is something that I hope you've understood thanks to my explanations and my demonstrations throughout this video. Remember, if you enjoyed the content and the explanations, you can hit the thumb up button and you can also leave a comment down below. If you have any questions, any doubts, or anything you would love to say in the next videos, let me know in the comments as well, all right? If you want to create a personalized program with me, last thing, to work on your flexibility goals, maybe lower body, upper body flexibility, whatever, you can book a free call today with me. We're gonna talk about your goals and I'm gonna design a program for you based on your goals, time availability, level of preparation, etc. All right, book your free call today, clicking on the link in the description down below. With that said, thank you so much for staying with me during this glute flexibility video. Have a nice stretch and see you in the next one. Bye. Hey, if you want to increase your flexibility, master your hamstrings and have a more capable body in general, you can download my Flexibility Guy app on your phone. Inside this wonderful and simple app, you're gonna find all the workouts, exercises, and video lessons you can follow to take yourself to the next level. You can check it out following the link in the description right now.